Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. Even though I'm glad it's Friday, I'm going to resist the temptation to say so because my day is far from over. In fact, I'll be back here again at 1 o'clock this afternoon for the latest outing of our construction equipment news show. Can't give away too much, but I can tell you the show will feature contributions from two of my favourite equipment manufacturers, Volvo and Liebherr. So tune in if you can. Now, before we go any further, is everyone familiar with the term circle jerk? It's just gone 10 in the morning, so I can't be too graphic. Let's just say it's a circle of people pleasuring each other. So this morning, I received an email informing me that the shortlist has been drawn up for the Inspiring Women in Construction and Engineering Award. No, I'd never heard of them either, but I'm not a woman, so maybe that's no great surprise. Anyway, the event is sponsored by, among others, Arcadis and Finning. So, with that in mind, let's take a very quick look at some of the ladies that have been shortlisted. I'm going to put it up on my screen so that I can see it nice and clearly. Yes, among the people in that have been named on the shortlist for the Arcadis and Finning sponsored event are Rachel Hughes from Finning and Deborah Nutt from Arcadis. And let me see, I'm doing this very, very quickly. Nora Taylor from Arcadis. Hilga Beckendorf from Arcadis. Deborah Nutt again from Arcadis. Rebecca Fleming from Arcadis. Sandra Snedden from Finning. Anybody else seeing just a bit of a conflict, bit of a coincidence here? Very strange coincidence indeed. Now, let me take that off the screen because I do have a show to do. We have a very good question of the day for you today, and this one comes courtesy of my son Fred. But I also have a supplemental question, bearing in mind it is Friday. What do you have planned for the weekend? Let me know in the chat. Now, without further ado, let me roll the question of the day. Get this. Yeah, play the question. Let me roll the intro. Play the question of the day and get this show on the road. It is Friday, the 23rd of June, which is important. I'll come back to that in a second. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, CJ Charlton fights fire with fire. Wacker Neuson performs a wheelie. And PP O'Connor carries out a bridge demolition against the clock. Plus, we are going proper old school with some vintage plant and equipment. And we're going to get to all of that in just a second. But first, let us peer back through the mists of time to see what was happening on this day in history. On this day in 1868, a certain Christopher Sholes patented the first commercially available typewriter and basically gave me a career. So thank you, Mr. Sholes. In 1928, the West Indies took part in their first ever test match and lost to England by an innings of 58 runs. In 1960, the first contraceptive pill was made available for purchase in the US. Insert your own jokes there. And in 1989, Tim Burton's Batman premiered. But way more importantly than that, if Facebook is to be believed, on this day, 22 years ago, a certain Mr. Muirhead walked down the aisle a newly married man. In an age when marriage is often seen as a fleeting thing, 22 years is a remarkable achievement. So happy anniversary to Mr. and Mrs. Muirhead. I sincerely hope the haggis, iron brew and whiskey will be flowing in celebration later today. I know Scottish people eat and drink other things, but stick with me. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, let me remind you of our question of the day. Yeah, that's right. You've all worked very hard. Putting up with me for 5 days straight, that's working hard. So you've all worked hard and you've earned yourself a nice, full English, full Irish, full Scottish breakfast. You know what I mean. But you are limited to just 6 items. So what stays and what goes? I've thought about this long and hard. I was speaking to my son Fred last night about this. He came up with the idea of this as a question. My 6 are eggs, bacon, beans, black pudding, bubble and squeak, and toast. How about you? Let me know in the chat. We'll come back to that one at the end of the show. And I can tell you now, the Scots have better breakfast than we do. I've already had a look. Trust me, they really do. So there I was, minding my own business at Plantworks 2023, when who should I bump into but Chris Charlton of CJ Charlton Group. I asked him if he was busy. He usually is. And he said he was just about to start work to take down a fire-damaged building in West London. Keep me posted, I said. And he did.
Hi, Chris Charlton here. Welcome back to another video. Today we are in West London and CJ Charlton Group have been instructed to carry out full demolition of a large commercial waste transfer station. Unfortunately, the building was damaged during fire last year and CJ Charlton Group have been instructed to carry out demolition down to slab level for a new client of ours. We have set up a number of exclusion zones and we have been liaising closely with neighbouring properties to minimise any disruption during our works on site. The machinery is already working on site and we have also started structural demolition. Let's go and take a look and see how our team are progressing.
Good video, right? I'm going to say a very quick good morning to our friend Terry Andrews, who's just joined us. CJ Charlton making big moves in the demolition game. Don't remember seeing Terry in the chat before. My apologies if you have been here before, but this is your normal welcome confetti, because you're a newcomer, but we're also going to share that with Gary Muirhead, who is celebrating his anniversary today. He's just said, thanks, Mark, much appreciated for the anniversary announcement. Can't believe it's 22 years and not a crossword between us. Well done. That's all I can say. Well done. Fantastic achievement. Let me turn that off because I've got other things to do. Just want to go back to CJ Charlton. I've been on, I don't know, probably half a dozen of their sites. Love that Chris and his team are really, really doing demolition as it should be done, but also love the fact that they're embracing video in the way that they have. That, my friends, is what the future of demolition looks like. Now, one of these. This show is in danger of turning into the Wacker Neuson fan club. 2 times we've featured the company's product this week. We're just about to make it a hat trick. This time, however, we're looking at their wheeled excavator offering. I love the audience we have here. First of all, let me just say, Jim Turner says, happy anniversary, Gary, and fair play for not sharing. Make her do her own crossword. Well played. Al Grierson is here because it's a national holiday over in Luxembourg. Now, Stephen Guthrie, Stephen, you and I, as far as I'm aware, we have never met. Are you a large gentleman, or are you one of those really annoying people that can eat like a horse and yet stay slim? Because this was his answer to our question of the day. 6 items for breakfast, never enough. I have full Scottish, eggs, bacon, sausage, black pudding, haggis, hash browns, tatty scone, mushrooms, toast with plenty of beans, then go back for more, especially at the buffet breakfast. If you are under 15 stone, Stephen, me and you just can't get along. That is that's a fantastic breakfast. I have to say, like the appearance of the tatty scone, love the appearance of haggis as well. Right, let's get back to the proper business, because we'll come back to that at the end. Just going back to Wacker, I probably should have recorded exactly what I said about Wacker yesterday, because I could have just replayed it now. Incidentally, there is a very real possibility that my son Fred might be working with Wacker in the very near future. So watch this space. But we need one of these. I like all forms of demolition, as you've probably gathered by now. I like explosive demolition, high-reach demolition, top-down demolition. But if I had to choose one form of demolition to go and watch, it would be bridge demolition. The race against the clock to get the road or railway back open again just adds a certain spice to proceedings. So I really, really enjoyed this one. top work from PP O'Connor there, showing those construction types just how demolition really should be done. If you like old stuff, apart from me, if you like old stuff, stick around.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
What's the expression? Ain't no school like the old school? Well, buckle up, people, because we're about to go properly old school. Yeah, some fine old kit there. Anyone fancy having a go on that? The levers look like pretty hard work. I wonder, here's a question for you. Maybe I'll save this for a question of the day at some point in the future. Obviously, all of that was 40, 50 years old. What machines of today do you think we will be looking, not me, because I'll be pushing up the daisies by then, but in 50 years' time, what machines of today will the industry be looking back and go, see, that was a treat, that one. Any ideas? Any thoughts, suggestions? Let me know in the chat. While you're thinking about that, this. Today's gripe is not really a gripe at all. It's more of an observation, a quizzical notion, if you will. And I was saying in advance that I'm a passionate advocate for the National Health Service. They put me back together again after various accidents and incidents. They rebuilt my face in roughly its original order when I headed a brick, and they quite literally saved my life when I burst my appendix in fairly spectacular fashion. But here's the thing. 2 of my 3 grandsons have been ill recently. Both of them been back and forth to our local hospital. It started as a rash on their legs, and their legs and arms began to swell, and they both developed joint pain. that is so severe. Both of them, who are usually as lively as anything, they're struggling to walk. They've had blood tests, they've had urine tests, they've seen consultants and doctors and nurses and everything else. One of them went back to, the eldest, Ronnie, went back to the hospital yesterday. My daughter explained the symptoms and told the doctor about the previous diagnosis. Do you know what he did? Do you think he looked at his notes or... No, he looked it up on Google. It's hardly reassuring, is it? Now, my wife does that all the time. In the past year, she's diagnosed me with everything from Dutch elm disease and distemper through to pregnancy. But I expect a little more from a professional doctor. Anyway, that's my gripe of the day. If anybody's still got anything to say on what plant of today will be looked back on fondly in 50 years' time, I'd love to hear about that. Yes, I've lost my train of thought. Yes, the daily gripe therapy session will return very, very soon. What is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, and generally butters your parsnips? I'd love to hear from you. That's going to pretty much wrap up the main part of this morning's show. As I said, I'm going to be back here at 1 o'clock this afternoon with our construction equipment news show. But I'm also going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to talk all things breakfast. And I have to admit, I'm now starting to think that question was a mistake, because I really, really desperately want to go to my local cafe and chow down. Yes, I'm going to roll the outro. I have too many things going on in my head. If you can stick around, please do. I'll be back here after the final word from our sponsor. But if you can't, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I'm going to play out with a final word from our show sponsor, and then we're going to talk haggis, apparently. Right, let's get some music in the background. Should we go with something a bit different today? Anybody feeling funky on a Friday? Yeah, I think that pretty much sets the mood. How are we all today? Let me go back to the very beginning of the chat. First off the mark this morning. Who was first off the mark this morning? I believe it may have been our friend Dan the Man Cullen. Morning, Dan. Thank you very much indeed for being here, as always. And he stated the obvious, but I'm sure he's saying it with a big smile on his face, because yes, it most definitely is Friday. And mighty glad I am too. There is our friend Chris. Morning, Chris. Hope you're fit well over in Facebook land. Ken Hatter is here, gearing up for Friday night pizza by the looks of things, as he does. Ken, I have a question for you. I know we're talking food here. When did the circle of mayonnaise begin? How did that become a thing? Interested to know. I used to go to, this is way before the likes of Pizza Hut and Pizza Express arrived in the UK. There used to be a pizza place in Sutton, where I grew up, called Pizza Garden. Did the old school sort of thin and crispy style pizzas. And my pizza of choice there was a margherita with chicken on it, covered in Tabasco sauce, and then a pile of coleslaw on top to take away the burn. Just intrigued to know how the mayonnaise began. I just find these things interesting. Stephen Guthrie, morning folks. A bit wet up here today. Whereabouts are you, Stephen? It's lovely and dry here, sunny and warm, and I'm sweating nicely. And there he is, Mr. Anniversary Man. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and a happy Friday, and even more importantly, a happy anniversary to our friend Gary Muirhead. That's odd. Nothing to do with actual women in construction. I have watched from afar certain demolition awards in the UK, and this is, I promise you, I absolutely promise you this is true. I have a friend within the industry who, she and I, let's just say we share a common enemy. And in the run-up to one of these awards ceremonies, I predicted who would be named Demolition Contractor of the Year, and 2 or 3 others, and I got every single one of them absolutely 100% correct. Why? Because the awards were hosted by a magazine, and the magazine gave the awards to all of their top advertisers. And here we are, awards for women in construction and engineering, and I do think they deserve awards. They deserve awards putting up with us men half the time. But awards for engineering and construction, sponsored by Arcadis and Finning, and who apparently have the most entries? Lo and behold, Arcadis and Finning. Circle jerk. Look it up. You'll thank me. Now, Fred's question of the day was, what 6 items make up your ideal full English breakfast? And I have to admit, having read your answers, I kind of want to change mine. But here we go. Morning, Steve Williamson. See, this is the scope of this show. I've been married for 33 and a bit years. Gary Muirhead is celebrating 22 years today. And what's Steve Williamson? 3 weeks in? Not quite. About 3 weeks in. Long way to go, Steve. I'm sure you'll catch me up one day. So, one of my additional question of the day was, what is everyone doing for the weekend? Beat this. Dan Cullen says Flying Scotsman is out on tour this week for the 100th anniversary. Are you going? Are you on board? Are you going to watch? It's passing Cambridge and Hertfordshire. So Hertfordshire is where you are, obviously. So are you going to go and take a look? Flying Scotsman, quite a treat. Mark Whiting's here. Morning, Mark. Hope you're fit and well. Now, we get into the real, literally, the meat of the questions today, where we start talking about what 6 items belong on your breakfast plate, be that an English, a Scottish, an Irish, or a Welsh breakfast. Steve Williamson was hot off the mark with tatty scone, beans, black pudding, haggis, square sausage, and egg. See, we could have played that as tell me you're Scottish without telling me you're Scottish. Just show me your breakfast. I have a question. Forgive my ignorance. I've eaten all of those things. I like all of those things. 1 or 2 I like more than others. Haggis. So one of my best mate, who sadly is no longer with us, family is Scottish. And yes, I've eaten haggis with them. I've eaten haggis on my own, but I've eaten haggis with them a number of occasions. But only ever for dinner. Is haggis actually considered a breakfast accompaniment? If it is, I may have to move to Scotland, because I do love me a bit of haggis. Sticking with the subject of haggis, there's Gary Muirhead. Egg, bacon, haggis, black pudding, tatty scone, mushrooms. See, I opted for beans with my breakfast, but leaving out mushrooms caused me physical pain. Totally agree with that. Jim Turner's here as well. Morning, peeps. Good morning back to you as well. Let's have a look. Stephen Guthrie says his is a Scottish breakfast, but what constitutes a Scottish breakfast? Ken Hatcher. Ken, I'm looking at you, and if Kerry Jones is in the house as well, do you do the whole Welsh thing? Do you do the lava bread and the cockles and the things? Be nice to know. Let me have a look through. Who else have we got here? Here's our mate Mick Saunders is here in the house. There's the anniversary man. Ken Hatcher, there we go. Egg, bacon, sausage, beans, fried bread. Fried bread. Now, I get on with fried everything, but not fried bread. Can't do fried bread. I'm very much a toast man myself. Steve Williamson says, nice Volvo. Now, who had the Volvo? CJ Charlton had the nice Volvo. Yes, it is a nice Volvo, and I've seen it up close. Question of the day, Jim Turner says, sausage, bacon, black pudding, beans, fried bread, again, and coal cannon. Coal cannon. What a fantastic concept that is. Isn't that just posh bubble and squeak, though? More or less? Give or take? Charlton making big moves in the demolition game. Now, there is a distinct possibility that Terry Andrews actually works for CJ Charlton, in which case he's just patting himself on the back. But I will back him up on that. First time I saw CJ Charlton, they were literally taking down a tiny house. I think it was Chris Charlton and one other person working for them. They had one, I think it was an 8-ton machine, and it was a 2-man band, which became a 3, which became a 4, which ended up with them becoming a member of the National Federation of Demolition Contractors, working up in Scotland. They've already done one fantastic job up there, which we went to see, and they've done more since. So, yes, interesting and very enjoyable to watch CJ Charlton growing. Hats off to them. There we are. Dan Cullen says, well, CJ Charlton's come up well this last few years. Well done, an amazing looking kit. That's another point about CJ Charlton. They invest properly. I mean, some of the buckets that they're running now out of Eurofab up in Scotland, they'll probably outlive Chris Charlton. They are absolute beast buckets that they're buying, but they look after their kit very, very well indeed. Back to the breakfast. Rakes of black pepper on everything. Oh, yes. Do you know, black pepper on chicken soup. Ooh, now we're talking. Ishmael Hosni. Can't read what you said, but thank you very much indeed for joining us over on YouTube. Wish I could understand what you're saying, but good morning to you either way. Chris Ford. Chris Ford is taking no prisoners and is desperate for a last dose of diabetes, apparently. His breakfast is 3 sausages, 3 bacon, 2 eggs, beans, tomatoes, mushrooms, fried slice and toast. Fried slice and toast. Is that not quite a lot of bread? Mick Saunders, anyone else got an out of focus screen? Nobody else has mentioned it, Mick, and I can tell you, I'm watching my own feed here. I look as crisp as I never liked me to look. Here we are. Now, here is a man that knows his way around a plate of food. Stephen Guthrie. Stephen says 6 items are never enough. He has a full Scottish. Eggs, bacon, sausages, black pudding, haggis, hash browns, tatty, scone, mushrooms, toast, plenty of beans, and then go back for more. Well done. Well done. I think you should get a medal after eating all of that. The King of Luxembourg is in the house, Al Grierson. Apparently it's a national holiday in Luxembourg. Who knew? But good morning, Mark, and good morning, gang. This is Morning Out. Thank you very much indeed for being here. We've missed you. We haven't been talking about you at all, but we have missed you. There's Jim Turner saying, happy anniversary, Gary, and fair play for not making her do her own crossword. Never a crossword between us. If you were here, you'll understand. Looks a good bit of kit, that new duck. Be interested to know how it compares to others in that range. I wish I had recorded what I said about Wacker yesterday. They are on the march. They are making some fantastic and very, very innovative products. So hats off to them. Gary Muirhead has just realised that the breakfast he suggested earlier would have left him slightly hungry, so he is throwing in the fried bread as well. Al Grierson I'm going to read this out in a second. Is there such a thing as a traditional Luxembourg breakfast, or do they just buy into the whole continental Europe? A croissant is enough. Ideal full breakfast, everything but mushrooms, and preferably not completely out of reach like it is here in Luxembourg. Is there a Luxembourg breakfast? I've never heard of it. I think Fred should take a driver on tour with him. I agree. Mainly because he doesn't drive himself. But yeah, I know you mean an operator. But yeah, that would be good. Now, this is where we really start to sort the men from the boys. And of the breakfast, it has to be cooked in good old lard. Yes. So I spent years going fishing with my dad, and one of the traditions, if we weren't travelling too far for one of his fishing matches, we used to get up, early in the morning on a Saturday or a Sunday before a match, and he would do a fry-up, as he referred to it, which was always egg, bacon, beans, and fried bread. And he managed to cook them simultaneously in a single pan. He would fry beans in lard. Don't knock it till you've tried it. It is... I've eaten one breakfast that was better, and that was eating bacon sandwiches after a night of night fishing and literally waking up, prime a stove, cooking bacon by the riverbank. That's about the best bacon sarnie I've ever had, but my dad fry up in the morning or before fishing, everything cooked in the same pan. Absolute treat. Question of the day says Dan, who is, as we know, a vegan. He says coffee and cereal, or when staying away, cereal and a vegan sausage, tomato, beans, and toast with coffee, or tea rather, coffee and oat milk. can't really get on board with any of that apart from the beans and the toast, to be honest. But hey, each their own. Steve Williamson, home cooked chickens in lard. Yes, quite right too. That I actually think there should be a sign up outside fish and chip shops that says we are cooking our fish and chips in lard, and then form a queue outside because that's how it's supposed to be done. Is Dan Cullen obviously enjoying the PP O'Connor job? Quite right. Mick Saunders thoroughly enjoying the old rope shovel footage. Cut my teeth on one of those. Nowhere near old enough for that. Surely, Nick, they would have been out of date before you started. Just kidding, my friend. Yeah, that little truck is fully loaded. No half loads there, and I think it was Gary Muir. It's no weight counters them days. No, there wasn't. No, but fill it up until it's almost tipping over. That'll do. Hard day shift on that. Yeah, can you imagine this all day? Yeah, you'd properly know you'd done a day's work after that. Let's have a look. No, those were the days you asked for a load, you got a load. Yeah, right. Diesel power will be old school. Yeah, it will. I just wonder if there's a specific machine that we will look back on with very, very fond memories. I mean, I think to a degree we already look back on things like the 3CX with a degree of fondness. Will it be a 3CX? Will it be one of the big cat dozers we look back on and say, yeah, that was the real deal? Interesting to know. On the same subject, Dan reckons we will basically gloss over the current rake of construction equipment. Too many computers and gadgets. Yeah, I wonder. I do wonder. I watched the latest episode of the Grand Tour last night, and in it, Jeremy Clarkson was driving an old Skoda car that had been designed for the Le Mans race. Never actually got to take part. And it was a thing of undeniable beauty. Built back in the 60s, tiny little thing, but looked gorgeous. And I'd say that when you think back about, the cars of old, like the Volkswagen Beetle, for example, it's a unique design. And I think we look back at them a bit like an ugly dog. And as somebody that owns boxer dogs, I can speak freely on ugly dogs. They just seem to have character. But when all cars look the same, they're all sleek and the same sort of design, same sort of colour, they seem to lack character. And I wonder if we've got the same thing with construction equipment. I wonder if we've become so homogenised and so modern that they are all pretty much of a muchness. We are now looking purely for function rather than form. Anybody else? The old RB22 and Haller still has a place. Haller. God, I've not talked about Haller in years. Great video, Mark. To anyone interested, it's Caterpillar Link Club's working weekend at Sibbertoft tomorrow and Sunday. Well worth a visit. And it's all for the air ambulance too. Fantastic calls. Where on earth is Sibbertoft? I'm guessing that's up your part of the world. That sort of Derby, Nottingham sort of way, Jim. If anybody is interested in doing that. And no one looks after the equipment nowadays just to get it out of work. Just get it out to work mentality. Yeah, there's another point. I mean, I don't know how old that rope shovel was. 50, 60, 70 years old. And yes, I mean, it's got a bit of rust on it, haven't we all? Is anyone going to, at the end of the working life of, say, a 3CX, is anyone going to say, do you know what, I'm going to park that up and preserve it. I'm going to stick it in a garage somewhere and I'm going to start it every once in a while because in 20, 30, 40 years' time, it'll be a fantastic thing to show my grandchildren this is how we used to do it. Is anybody going to have that foresight? Steve Williamson, if you have something and you Google it, you're going to die in a few hours. Yeah, absolutely right. As I say, I've had everything from Dutch elm disease to distemper, according to my wife. Still here. I mean, I don't look great, but I'm still here. Mick Saunders, it's called old age, mate. Listen, I am now probably 5 or 6 years into that thing where I make an involuntary noise getting in and out of chairs. I don't remember how that started. I don't remember why it started, but I now do it all the time. Who agreed that was a thing? Sadly, it's beginning to take its toll. The eating, I've not reached the 15 stone yet, but showing signs. All these 7 days, 12-hour shifts ain't helping. Sitting on my ass, says Stephen Guthrie. Yeah, it is. It is. It's not conducive to a healthy lifestyle, is it? It really isn't. And I know, excuse me, I'm not going to bore you with all my ailments because I've just told you that my wife thinks I'm dying anyway. But I did have a fairly big run of things. I had a whack in the chops, as they say around my way, from a low-flying brick. Then I had a burst appendix, and then twice I had septicemia. Nearly died. So my wife and myself agreed that I would start to live more healthily, walking and running and eating more healthy. Try eating healthy on the road. It's really, really, really hard. You pull into a motorway service area and try and find something that isn't fried or made entirely from sugar and salt. It's tough. It is tough. And when you are working, as Stephen said there, 7 days, 12 hours a day, you're literally eating on the fly, and it's easier to reach for stuff that will do you no good. My downfall was always chocolate. Growing up, a bar of chocolate was a treat. By the time I got to 40, 2 bars of chocolate was just enough to get me through the day. It takes its toll. Let's have a look. Stephen is up in Dunfermline. I don't know why we have such a big following up in Scotland. I'm kind of surprised they can understand what I'm saying, to be honest. Al Grierson is passing on happy anniversaries to Gary as well. God knows, we're going back to Ken Hatcher and his mayonnaise on his pizza. I like mayo, so if it's in a circle, it's on every piece. Much the same as my old Tabasco and coleslaw. I don't know how that started. It just seemed like a good idea, and that basically became my thing. What grinds my gears is being sent to do a job, do 2 days' work, and sit for the rest of the week as one operator's machine getting repaired from pulling the blade clean off the machine's undercarriage. Now that's how you know an operator is not doing their daily checks. I'm not entirely sure doing your daily checks is going to stop you ripping the blade off the undercarriage, to be perfectly honest. Chris Ford is going to, what was the place called? Sibbertoft? Did I say that? Yeah. Apparently Chris Ford is going tomorrow. So look out for Jim. Big beard. We were talking about beards last night, funnily enough. I found an old video of me ranting, as I normally do, back in 2017. See, I was doing video even back in 2017, although live. I wasn't doing live, I was doing a recorded. And I was talking about the dinosaurs of the UK construction equipment journalism industry. And at the time, I'd been ill. I had actually just had the burst appendix and I'd had the septicemia. So I'd lost a lot of weight, but I only had some stubble. I didn't actually have a beard. And everybody in the WhatsApp group commented the fact that I looked about 40 years younger. Sorely tempted to just go upstairs and hack off the beard, but I'm just kind of concerned. I've not seen underneath here for quite some time. I'm just not sure I'm going to like it. We shall see. A lot of awards are fixed these days. They are, and the bizarre thing about it is, what credibility does that then give you? I said at the time, I won't name names. Everybody in the demolition industry knows who I'm talking about. But there was a demolition company based up and around, well, Jim Turner country, actually, up that way, who had spent a fortune in advertising with a certain magazine. And I'm doing that not for fun. It's only just a magazine. That's the truth of the matter. And I predicted that they would win Demolition Contractor of the Year, and so they did. They could have saved themselves a lot of money. Rather than spending thousands on advertising, they could have gone down to their local trophy shop and just have one made. It's every bit as credible, Demolition Contractor of the Year, according to us, ourselves. Why not? Has to be a full Ulster fry. What constitutes an Ulster fry? I've never had an Ulster fry. Seen it on the telly, but what constitutes an Ulster fry? I'm here finally, says our friend Peter McKenna, Mr. Sickman himself. And somebody is, Dan Cullis just said, Afternoon, Peter. Well done. Dan Cullen. Seen someone get ground worker of the year, and that person barely gets out of their machine. Never been on a building site doing 20 plus hours is unbelievable. It all pees me off seeing people getting awards when all they do is sit in front of the camera. Yes. But yeah, no, you're dead right. You're dead right. Let's have a look. Ulster fry is definitely top of the list. Please, somebody tell me what's in an Ulster fry. I may go and order one somewhere. If you go into a cafe up in the Highlands, haggis is always an option. Sometimes you get white pudding also. Oh, love me a white pudding. I don't know whether this is. I don't know whether this is a common thing. I don't know whether this is sacrilege. There's a butcher's fairly close to me that does kind of a. I'm going to make it sound more poncy than it really is, but like something like a Swiss roll, which is a combination of white pudding wrapped in black pudding. Like I say, I may be breaking every culinary rule in the world, but man alive, that's some good stuff. Mick Saunders, weekend we'll be sitting on the boat, drinking and dreaming. I'm in the West Indies and not tied up in the local marina. Tatty Skull, square sausage, scrambled egg, bacon, beans, hash browns, fried bread. And almost forgot black pudding. Love black pudding. Incidentally, and this was going back to Ken Hatcher and his circle of mayo on his pizza. We had I can't honestly remember quite how it came about, but we had some leftover, which is a crime in itself. We had some leftover cooked black pudding. I don't know, somebody just didn't finish their breakfast or whatever it might be. So it was stuck in the fridge with some cling film over it. That night, my wife cooked a chilli. So I chopped up the black pudding and threw it in the chilli. Best chilli I've ever had. Keep your dark chocolate nonsense that's folded into it in certain parts of the world. Trust me. Chilli with black pudding. An absolute joy. Soda bread, potato, bread, bacon, sausage, egg, veggie roll, says Glenn Johnston. You had me up until the veggie roll, at which point you and I parted company, I'm afraid. I'm with Jim. People always ask, do you want breakfast with your pet? Yeah, good one. Question of the day. I used to eat 2 eggs, 4 bacon, 3 hash browns, chips, beans, 6 slices of toast, and 4 sausages back in the day. Good Lord. 6 slices of toast. Question of the day. Sadly, no more fry-ups for me. The old body has finally reached that point where it's so-called healthy stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, it comes to us all, doesn't it? Where are we? Jonathan Duras is here as well. Every so often. Not sure what the every so often is. Sorry, Mark, had the wrong glass on. Don't you just love getting old? No. No, not in any way, shape or form. I do like toast, scrambled egg and smoked salmon. That's a good breakfast. It is. I tell you the other one that I like, and I'm fairly sure first time I ever had it was up in Scotland. I like kedgeree. That's on the side. The one that I really like, smoked haddock, poached egg. Yeah, that's a proper job, that is. Kippers. I haven't had kippers in quite some time. Love me a kipper. In Luxembourg, it's a mix of French and German breakfast traditions. Proper sliced bread, not toast, cheese, ham, salami, croissant, chocolate rolls, jam, etc. But it's not a cultural fixture like a full English. And don't get me wrong, when I'm travelling, I love all of those things, particularly the salamis and the hams and all that kind of thing. Had an absolute blast with that in both the Czech Republic and over in Italy last week, or a couple of weeks ago. But give me the fry up any day of the week. Once went to a cafe where the large was on special offer. It made it cheaper to have 2 large and 1 mega. It beat me by half a black pudding. Beaten by half a black pudding. What a terrible defeat that is. Fried baked beans, cowboy chips are lovely. Leftover broad beans chucked in the frying pan with breakfast is also lovely too. I could get on board with that. I do love me a broad bean. Let's have a look. Like the Full Sierra, no one liked them before, but man, now they are nearly the price of a Ferrari. Yeah, I had a Full Sierra as a company car for a while. Hated it, absolutely hated it. But like you say, they are very much a bit of a collector's item. When is the next meeting with content creators? It will be in July. Not surprisingly, because we're almost out of June. But yes, I am planning to do that, and I'm planning to do it in a different way. I've got some stuff that I've been playing around with in the background. I won't bore you with the details, but for those that are content creators, like Steve Williamson is, I'm going to be doing some education sessions, webinars. I don't know what basically teaching people how I do what I do. Not this bit, because frankly, he wants to do that. But yes, watch this space, Steve. I'll drop you a line on that. Jim Turner confirms Sivertoft is actually in South Leicestershire. It's not a million miles away from me. Can't get there, I'm afraid. I made the mistake of mentioning getting shot of the beard, and she puts in the occasional appearance here. This is the wife. Yes, get rid. See, that's why, frankly, women shouldn't be allowed on the show. I might. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen says, I never see anyone walking around sites comparing ground workers and contractors and say there is an award coming up. See, there's the other thing as well. Now, I will make a notable exception here, even though I spent most of my journalistic career in competition with construction news, and I have a deep, deep hatred of construction news, irrational though it is. Construction News Specialist Awards are an absolute swine to win. They make the competitors jump through hoops. There are forms to fill in. There are formal interviews. They absolutely tear apart anybody that takes part. If you come away with a Construction News Specialist Award, you have earned it. 100%. No question about it. However, not only have we got the awards that seem to depend on how much you've spent on advertising or sponsorship, you have the other type in which you basically fill in a form. I could fill in a form saying I am the world's greatest live streamer. Who's going to say otherwise? It's meaningless. If you ever get your hands on Stornoway Black Pudding, buy it. Award-winning and best black pudding you'll get. Oh, got a hankering now. We need to get organised, says Dan Cullen, for Scotland 24. That's Scotland, I guess. Yes, we do. I'm saying it now. I am pledging. I am going to Scotland next year. No matter what, I'm going to Scotland. So if anybody else is going up, please join me. Catch you next week, people. Hound walking down to the boat to get my old plates up. That's his plates of meat. If anyone's interested, plates of meat, feet. Have a fantastic weekend. Dreaming of the West Indies, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Corned beef fried with beans and chili sauce is awesome too. The hotter the sauce, the better. Corned beef hash, one of my favourites. I know that's not corned beef hash, but corned beef hash, one of my favourites. Sounds fascinating, says Al Grierson. Not sure what that's relating to. Have a good day, Mick Saunders. My missus hates beards too. Unlucky, says Jim. I don't know if you can actually see Jim's beard. Puts mine to shame. Yards of it there is. Yards. Looks like the stray member of ZZ Top he does. I hate being a fairly new machine driver with no site experience. And old hands start mocking and cursing us. What's the point? Everybody's going to start somewhere. And why is it that we have a different attitude in this industry? Have you ever been to I'm thinking specifically like a restaurant or a pub. Funny enough, I was in a pub 2 weeks ago on Saturday. It was a hot day, been shopping, took wife and a couple of the kids to the pub, basically just for a swift half because it was hot and we were by the river. Went in there and there was a young guy, I guess he was probably 19, 20, it was clearly his first day. And he was, struggling to find where various drinks were, where the glasses lived, and how the till worked and everything else. And I said to him, first day, and he went, yeah, I'm still learning the ropes. So when I bought the drinks, gave him a tip and said, good luck with a new job. And yet, construction site, if you're a bit slow or you're struggling a bit, You are absolutely castigated. Why are we like that? My missus loves my beard. 'Twas her idea to grow one. It's a keeper. Dan, she's a keeper. Steve Williamson says, see yous there. I wish I could do a Scottish accent. See you there. Yeah, absolutely. Scott Plant 2024. Yes, that was about the upcoming Influencer Collective thingy. Yeah, so let me just very quickly, because, excuse me a sec, they are really digging into my head for some reason. I don't know if my head's swollen or something. So, yes, I have been writing. I've already told you that I'm working with a publishing company in a kind of an allied business sector. Known a lot of them. I mean, I've known a couple of them for 35 years, and they reached out and said, look, you're clearly doing things well on social media. What say you come and teach us how to do likewise, and we'll pay you for it. They had me at, we'll pay you for it. So, yes, I've already been to give them one session. I'm going back again at the end of July to give them another one. But they've been asking lots of questions about things like video creation and thumbnail creation and all of the things that I now take I take for granted. I just do them almost on autopilot. Now they're only based in Dartford. They're not a million miles away, but getting 12 on some occasions 15 people in the same room at the same time is somewhat problematic. So my plan, and I've been playing around with this in the background, my plan basically is to do some sessions where I actually, let's say we do one on thumbnails, and I will literally sit there and I will record myself creating a thumbnail and go through the process of why our thumbnails look the way they do and so on down the line. I've got another one in mind about how I use various forms of AI. That will probably be 3 or 4 different films. And I figured, I have the software and the capability, but I can also record them. So the plan basically is I will make those available to our friends in the content creation space. Oh, excuse me, coffee's gone down the wrong hole. So that's the plan. I'm going to do a couple in advance with just myself. I'm not even going to have an audience for them. I'm going to do a couple in advance, basically to knock off the rough edges. But then I will start to make them available. Now, on that basis, if you're not already a member, we, in addition to the Construction Content Creators Club, which is our WhatsApp group, we do now have a thing over on Substack. It's called Demolition Insider. No, it's not. It's called Demolition Social. Demolition Insider is a completely different thing. Demolition Social, which is me trying to teach people how to use social media to market in the demolition industry. The same rules apply in construction and various other industries as well. So if you're not already signed up to that, drop me a line and I'll get you signed up for that. Just need your email address basically, and I'll get you signed up to that. Al, I think you may already be in there. I can't actually remember, but if you're not, let me know and I'll hook you up. But yes, watch this space, because we will be doing some of these sessions. Just to ring the changes. I mean, I think with when we've done our first couple of Construction Content Creators Club, it's been a bit of a random conversation, talking about people that are working through agents as influencers and all that kind of thing. But I think underneath all of that, there is a desire to learn how to do some stuff. And I do have the good fortune of having been doing this for a fair bit longer than some people. I am I'm not an expert, and I'm not professing to be an expert, but when you've done as many live shows, as many Instagram posts, as many Instagram lives, as many thumbnails and everything else, sooner or later you're going to learn some stuff along the way. So the plan is to share that, and obviously it'll all be free of charge. It's the kind of guy I am. Right, people, it is an hour, isn't it? It is an hour. It's an hour and 2 minutes, in fact. I've got to go and make ready. I've got a show coming up at 1 o'clock this afternoon, if you're about, another construction equipment news episode. Haven't written a damn word of the script yet. I know what's going to be in it, but I haven't written a word yet. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. For those that are going to this vintage plant thing up at Sibbertoft, if you get some photographs, or better still some video, please send them to me, because we'll be more than happy to feature it on the show. If you've got anything else you'd like to feature on the show, let us have that as well. We're always open to offers. Also open to offers on all things question of the day. We've had 2 this week from Gary Muirhead, 1 from my son Fred. It's like I don't know any work at all anymore. And I'm going to leave you with a message from Dan Cullen, who says, have a lovely weekend. I will certainly try, Dan. You do the same, my friend. Until I see you at 1 o'clock, if I do, have a fantastic weekend. If not, I will see you again on Monday morning, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, for the Breakfast Show number 531. See you then. All the best.